This show just continues to prove me wrong because when I started making these videos, I told myself, well, I don't like newer, animated stuff that I never watched as a kid because for me, animation is just, it doesn't hit as hard as I get older. And then I was proven wrong quickly because this show is amazing. And then going into this episode today, when I saw what it was about, I was like, well, I don't like episodes of TV where they tell multiple, self-contained stories, each character having their own in an episode. But after watching this one, I was again proven wrong. Now, this is not like my favorite episode of Gravity Falls by far, but given what, I just told you about my previous tastes, it definitely, took me by surprise by how much I liked it. Now, if you're new here, I'm going to go into it, breaking it down pretty quick, or as quick as I can, giving my thoughts and then any theories. But honestly, guys, there's not many theories for this one because this felt like a bit of a filler episode again, where nothing really happens that progresses the overarching plot. At least nothing that I found. So, all that being said, we're going to get into it. The episode starts pretty, wheels to the ground. They're just standing in front of a bottomless pit that's apparently outside of the shack. And something I thought about when I saw this was like, is it just me? Maybe you guys can let me know down below, but is it just me or I've never noticed this pit and they don't really explain it in the episode. So I'm just wondering where this came from and if it's always been here. Either way, they're all throwing stuff into the pit and then a storm blows in and, Soos has a really good line where he's like, whoa, dude, almost threw his pushing force. And they all fall in because Stan, of course, cannot bring himself away from the pit, bring himself from dumping his tax evasion proof into the pit. So they all fall in, and then they're falling, and then it's an interesting way they show it because I like that it's all black because it looks like they're just sitting still, but obviously they're continuously falling. I think that looks really cool in the episode. And, Dipper is saying how they're probably going to inevitably die in here because of Stan. But they start telling stories to lighten the mood or kill time or both. And they start with Dipper. His is titled Voiceover, I believe. And the basic premise is Dipper is ashamed of his voice because of his voice cracks. I've been there. There's probably minimum 5 videos on this channel that you could find of me having voice cracks, and I am much older than Dipper, so it's understandable that he is insecure about that and a bit ashamed. So Dipper goes to old man McGucket because, and I should say McGucket tells Dipper to follow him into a dark, creepy alley, and Dipper just obliges, so bit of a red flag there. Luckily, there's no one really sinister in this town aside from Gideon. But he follows McGucket to his junkyard after Dipper recognizes him from the fish fiasco, which I really liked because they incorporated, some through line here. And I've brought that up before with the show, but I still really just always appreciate it when they go that extra mile to connect everything to where it doesn't just feel like an episode of The Simpsons or something, or Family Guy, where things just happen each episode. But McGucket tells Dipper that he has a voice-changing serum, and Dipper takes it, and he turns into a, commercial voice guy, where it's the ones you see on the ads, or he kind of sounds like, to me, it reminded me of the guy from, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, but Jingle All the Way with Arnold. He has, a neighbor, and he sounds just like the neighbor in that's trying to, get with Arnold's wife. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that's what I picked up on. But he goes to Mabel, and she gets scared because she doesn't recognize him. Soos also gets scared. Basically, no one around him recognizes him. And Dipper's life kind of starts to go downhill because he realizes, this isn't what he wanted. It's too much. So he goes back to old man McGucket, and they realize that he accidentally switched up the serums. So he gives Dipper a new serum, although he tells him, if you take this, your voice will be, that permanently. And if you don't, and you wait till midnight, your voice is going to revert back to normal, so you better hurry up. And then it cuts to, Stan, Mabel, and Soos in the living room, and Dipper walks in, clearing his throat, revealing he kept his old voice. He went back to voice cracky preteen Dipper. And everyone's happy, and I think it's a really nice little, self-contained story because it shows that you shouldn't be ashamed of who you are, and just because you have something that you don't like, that doesn't mean, people around you dislike it. Even if they kind of give you shit for it, that doesn't mean they dislike it. So I actually really did enjoy that moment, and I thought it was really sweet. Moving on, we have Zeus's story, which takes place entirely within a pinball machine. It starts with Zeus playing the pinball machine, trying to beat the high score, because according to him, that is the best accomplishment somebody can achieve in life. So Dipper and Mabel help him cheat, even after the machine warning them not to, thus transporting them into the machine, where they are, the machine attempts to kill them. Soos reminds them, though, that there is a kill switch in the machine. And while him and Dipper go... Really quick, though, before I tell you about that, they're trying to come up with a way to distract the guy. So Soos asks them, is anybody good at jumping up and down and being really annoying? And I thought this was a reference to Kung Fu Panda, specifically Master Oogway, because Mabel squints her eyes and says, my time has come. And I thought that was a reference. I don't know if it is. Maybe you guys can let me know down below if you know different than me. But I couldn't really find anything confirming that it was a reference. Although it just, immediately in my brain, that's where my brain went. So I really liked that. I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, anyways, Mabel distracts, or tries to at least, but the head of the machine sees right through it, and Dipper and Soos found the switch. However, Soos realizes that if he does switch off the machine and reset it and, get them out of it, then his high score will be erased. And that brings him to ask Dipper, what's important? What even is life? A high score is forever. And Dipper pleads with him, where Zeus eventually does switch off the machine, saving them and bringing them back into the real world. And again, another pretty sweet moment here. I don't know how deep this kind of stuff is meant to be. I've said this multiple times in my reviews, but I've always said this show is surprisingly deep in certain moments, and it's emotional. And it's nice because when they get out, they apologize to Zeus for losing his high score, but he says the best thing he can do in life is actually save them, not some high score. And I really love that, because I always love the friendship between the three of them, and Soos always just feels like a part of the family. So I really like that addition here. Moving on, we have Stan's story, which is pretty funny, because the whole time he's been saying how bad everyone else's stories are. But then his is just, a classic, or a, cliche sports movie moment. Stan runs into touchdown, and the guys that are there on the team, they say, we were wrong about you, old man. You showed us what it is to really be a team. Or something like that, something corny. And I thought it was really funny, because it's, it's just so, the way they light the scene, the way they draw it to be very old-fashioned looking. Not to mention, Steve has a robot that he created that calls him father, apparently, which reminded me a lot of, what's that robot? The robot in Rocky IV, Happy Birthday, Polly. I thought that's what it reminded me of, but I don't know if you guys even know what I'm referencing there, but if you know, I'll leave a picture here. Moving on, last but not least, we have Mabel's story. And hers is mainly addressing how she dislikes how Stan lies. And later in the episode, we find out that this actually just happened earlier in this episode. So it starts with Stan lying about everything. He lies about eating Dipper's spaghetti. He lies about, stuff in the shack. He just lies nonstop. He lies to cops, even when he is pulled over because a bear is driving his car, and he tells the cops that it is, yes, you guessed it. You may have already guessed this because it's very common, but he tells them it's a seeing eye bear, which I've never heard of, but okay. They believe it because, he provides a very official-looking note from Dr. Medicine stating this Stan needs a seeing eye bear, and they buy it, so they leave. But Mabel gets sick of this, and for the life of me, I cannot remember where she gets these from, but I just watched the episode, but she gets a pair of, these teeth, and when they're put in the person's mouth, it forces them to tell the truth. Obviously, very reminiscent of Liar Liar with Jim Carrey. If you guys haven't seen that movie, I believe it starts with, a kid wishing for his dad to be more truthful or to tell the truth. And Jim Carrey's character plays a lawyer, so it gets him in a lot of funny situations and just awkward situations as well, because being brutally honest is often, just that. It's brutal. So yeah, this episode plays on a lot of those tropes, and it has a lot of fun with that. But it gets to be too much, like, Stan's telling the truth too much. So they want him to take the teeth out, and eventually, he does. Obviously, a lot of stuff happens in between, but really there's nothing that noteworthy. And the episode ends with them seeing a light at the end of this supposedly bottomless pit, where they fall through the same way they fell in. Only they pop out of it and they're free. And this reminded me, this is kind of a crazy reference to make in a video going over a kid show, or at least a Disney XD show. I guess I should stop calling this a kid show. I feel like I've realized by now it's definitely not just a kid show. But it reminded me a lot of As Above, So Below. It's this movie that is, I believe, based on the book Dante's Inferno, which details a group of people going through 7 layers of hell. I think it's 7 at least. But they go through the 7 layers, and at the end, spoiler alert, the remaining 2 open a manhole cover and they go out, but they go out the same, it's weird. They come out of the manhole and then the camera flips as they go through it, revealing that they're topside. So it's very trippy, and that's kind of the way this one ended. So I thought that was kind of cool. I'm not saying it's a reference. Again, it's probably just my own headcanon that I'm just noticing this stuff, but I found it interesting nonetheless. And that's pretty much the episode, honestly. Like I said, nothing super crazy about this one. No big reveals, no gigantic reveals, but nonetheless, it was very enjoyable. I liked it. I thought it was really cool to see a lot of the different stories, and I thought it was cool to see one of these these formats of episodes kind of engage me, because usually when shows, it's a thing for shows to do the same type of episodes, a same handful of shows will do the same type of episode in a slightly different way. But I enjoyed this for what it was. I wouldn't say it, blew my mind, and it wasn't super emotionally in-depth like other Gravity Falls episodes, but for what it was fun, and it was, decent time. I don't think I'd watch it again, so I don't know. I think I'd give it a 3 out of 5, because it's perfectly average, I would say. It's not, bad. It's not great. It's just fine. And that's what I like about this show, because even when we have episodes like this where it's just fine, I still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, there's not really any theories, unfortunately. I really like theorizing, and as you guys will see in my other videos on this channel about superheroes and related content, I really like to kind of give my take on what I think will happen. So I'm looking forward to the future of this season. Hopefully stuff starts to hit the fan. I believe I have 6 episodes left, so I'd imagine it starts happening soon, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. If you guys liked my video and you liked to listen to what I had to say, I do appreciate you sticking around and listening. It means a lot to me. Be sure to like and subscribe so you can see more of this, and you can stay up to date as I keep trekking through this. And let me know what you thought down below, either of this episode or of this video. If you have anything that I missed, I would love to hear it, because I'm fully invested in this show and I want as much content out of it as possible. However, I don't look anything up because I do try not to get spoiled. So I'm very against spoilers, and I think it just ruins the fun for everyone. So let me know. Until next time, though, I will see you guys later.